Hello and welcome to Iridium Rock and Metal Reviews. And today I've got a new guest on with me, Jeff Reeves. How you doing, mate?
Doing good. How are you doing? Glad to finally get together with you.
Yeah, man. So Jeff reached out to me. I put a little thing on Facebook saying anyone wants to come on the show and talk metal with me and rock and metal. That's cool. And Jeff reached out to me. Got a lot of interest, the same as me, in a lot of bands. And we decided to do discussing a classic album, and we're going to do Van Halen 1984, which is obviously a classic, one of my favourites. But before that, we're just going to let Jeff talk about himself a little bit. Just introduce yourself, mate, and because we're talking Van Halen, just give us a little how you got into the band and what they mean to you, sort of thing. Is that all right?
Okay. Yeah, I'm from the States. Grew up in the Midwest. Child of the 70s and 80s. I was not even a teenager. I kind of got into Van Halen right about when 1984 came out. So I just was kind of introduced to that kind of music around that time. Quiet Riot was big, Twisted Sister, Van Halen. And I was probably about 10 or 11 when 1984 came out. It just, from then on out, it blew me away. And of course, I got back to the older stuff, the first few albums, Van Halen 1, Diver Down, and all the others with David Lee Roth. So, yeah, this is kind of my first introduction to Van Halen. Because Eddie Van Halen has been a hero of mine ever since. My email is even kind of a thing to Eddie. So, and hearing he died not too long ago, it's a loss. It really is a big loss.
Yeah, man. I mean, I know he was ill, but I mean, I've spoken about him a couple of times, straight after he died, and but it wasn't the same. I don't think it was the same over here as in all over the news, like it probably would have been over in the States. I mean, that was obviously huge in the States, but everyone knows they are over here, but it wasn't really plastered over the news. It obviously was on my news feed on my Facebook because of it's all about metal in it. So I mean, it was all over it. But apart from that, didn't hardly hear anything about it on the normal news. It was just not good, but obviously means a lot to both of us, Eddie Van Halen, and what he's done to influence bands that I love and you love is just, must be one of the biggest influences, without a doubt. And, you're not just saying that because people sometimes, when people pass away, sometimes musicians, people just come out of they come out and say all the wonderful things about them, even though they're not. But Eddie Van Halen's a different matter. He really did influence a lot of people. He really was ahead of his time. What a great guitarist. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, not only fans, I think sort of like Jimi Hendrix or Eric Clapton, the influence on other guitarists, other bands that they've inspired over the years since the first album. It's just from, Slash to all the other great guitarists of the period. I mean, everybody at some point has been influenced by Eddie and Van Halen as a whole.
Yeah, without a doubt, mate. I mean, you just said that the first album, it was the first you heard of them in 1984. I was a bit similar to you. I'd heard bits and pieces of them, but probably never any of the albums in full, probably like the singles. And then when 1984 came out, it blew me away. And then, but it was weird with bands back then, including Van Halen. They had an album out like every year, didn't they? So it wasn't like it is now, an album every 4 years for some band. It was like in a short space of time. The first album came out in 1978, was it? 78, 79. So in those...
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they brought a lot of albums out before they obviously split up. And then just a quick one before I talk about the album quickly. Yeah. Just a few bits about the date it came out and all that. Are you a Roth, Hagar, or both?
Well, I kind of I know a lot of purists. Obviously, I tend to go towards Roth. That's where I started, and I truly like that period more. But it's sort of like AC/DC. When they broke up, it's like, do you want that to be it, or would you rather them hopefully move on and build some more great music? And So I like some of the Sammy Hagar stuff also, but I definitely like Roth more.
Yeah, I veer more towards Roth. I don't know. I just think the sort of music they were doing, he suited the music they were doing. I mean, he's not the best singer in the world, but
yeah,
I think as a showman, you know, and
sure.
And the way he was on the album, I mean, I think he'd done good performances on the album. He never did have the greatest voice in the world, but no one could have done it, that sort of music, better than having him. He suited the band down to the ground, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, right, okay, just a couple of quick things about the album. Released in January the 9th, 1984, so right at the beginning of the year. The 6th album, like I said, so they did 6 albums, man, from 1978, one a year. Obviously, Dave Lee Roth left after this one the following year, August 1985. I don't know the official date, but he left the following summer. This is the last album, obviously, to have all the 4 original members. Sold more than 10 million copies. Man.
Wow.
33 minutes long and 22 seconds. 33 minutes and 22 seconds. Now,
that's a short album.
Yeah, I mean, they all were really short. Van Halen's albums were really short. Yeah. I mean, you know, and there's a lot of complaints about the album before, which was a bit of a probably the most disappointing Roth album for me, Diver Down. I mean, and it is with a lot of fans. It definitely was with me. The amount of cover versions and stuff that was on that was a really short. I think that was under half an hour. I'm not sure, but I don't know. It didn't seem as short as that one.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it was a real short one. Produced by Ted Templeman, which he did all those albums, didn't he? You know, in the beginning. I love the production.
Yeah.
Across this and all the Van Halen albums, it's so crystal clear, so ahead of a lot of the production at the time. You know,
oh yeah,
faultless, really. You know, just showed off every instrument just at the right level. You know, he got it completely right. So yeah, that's the basic, some little bits about the album. Everyone knows about it, I'm sure. He's into rock and metal. And what we do on this, mate, is we sort of take turns. We talk about every track. You can chime in, by the way, if I talk about one of the tracks that's mine and it's one of your favourites, just let me know and what you think about the track as well. So we only got 9 to talk about, and I'm going to kick it off. You ready to go then, mate?
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously this started off with a little instrumental, just over a minute long, 1984. It's just a little mucker band really on the synthesizers, but I think because of the way this album was in general, and the use of synthesizers came out a lot more on this album than the ones before. Yeah. It's quite a cool little intro for me. It doesn't, some intros when you get these minute longs, you think, what's that all about? There was no need for that. But it sort of suited the feel of the album, if you know what I mean. It felt more, it doesn't sound sort of futuristic now because it's way back then, but it really felt sort of modern. Do you know what I mean? When you heard that synthesizer, that was all the rage, I suppose, like rock bands using synthesizers.
Definitely 80s.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah, definitely 80s. There's lots of 80s sounds through this, obviously being in the 80s, but not a lot to say, obviously, about the track 1984 itself. But it was quite a good little intro, I suppose. That's all you could say about it. Ready for the rest of the album, and then we jump on to track 2, mate. Quite a big one for you to talk about. Jump.
Yeah, Jump. I think that I don't know. Quote me on it, but wasn't that their first #1 hit as a single?
I think it was, mate, because I remember. I think did Dave Lee Roth have a lot to do with this song? He sort of don't. I think that all the members are sort of claimed to have wrote all the songs on the album. I think, but I think it was his song as such. So I heard, But yeah, Dave Lee Roth gave them their #1. That's what I used to
hear. Yeah. And it, like you said with the intro, Jump definitely had that 80s vibe. Like you said, at the time, that was cutting edge. That was they seemed to be experimenting on this album more. They kind of got into synthesizers and keyboards and all that a little more on this album. And it definitely reflected in later albums with Sammy Hagar and all that. Yeah. But wow, what as a song as a whole, out of 10, I definitely give it an 8. And, like the guitar solos, you don't get as much as you do on some others, like Unchained or some of the older stuff. But I still, anytime Eddie's at work on the guitar, he's hot. and I definitely give it like a 7. So overall, I give it like a 7.5 as a song.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say it hasn't been played enough. I mean, this is probably one of the most played songs ever, you know. And but it's a sort of a song as well. Being a metal fan back in the 80s, it's a sort of a song that I shouldn't have liked. You know, I would have thought, you know, synthesizers, what's that all about? But I think it suited them down to the ground. It was just another step in there, like you said, experimenting with stuff. And I love it. Real happy song in it. But I'm not sure, I don't know about you, but obviously this is the first proper song on the album. I'm surprised that it was that sort of song. Usually bands want to kick it off with a heavier song. It was a bit of a surprise for a first song, if you know what I mean. But yeah, good guitar solo though, man. Like you said, yeah, it's good. It is good. And then we come up to my actual favourite song of Van Halen. So another very, oh man, this is exactly. This is probably me. I did a top 10 songs on Van Halen a while ago. Always has been. So I love the riff. The riff is just outstanding. And like you said, it has influenced a lot of bands, that actual riff itself, not just Van Halen, but that riff out of Panama. This brings back a lot of memories for me, actually, mate. This is when I was 14 and shouldn't have been in there, but I was in the pubs at that age, back then in the 80s, you know, you could get away with anything. And we used to have a video, we had a video jukebox, and that was like ahead of its time, you know, back in the 80s. So it used to, I know. And we had Panama was on there, and man, we used to, like, me and my mates used to play it on there. Such a memorable solo on this, man. What a great solo, Eddie Van Halen on this. Is it overplayed? It probably is, but it still sounds fresh to me, energetic, real energy in the song. You know, like they were hungry again, if you know what I mean. Especially after Diver Down, and then come back with something like this in the song. Yeah. My favourite song, man, from Van Halen, Panama. Absolutely brilliant. That's all I've got to say. I'll take it you like the song, man.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. You know, I haven't even made a list. I should have. And that's a tough thing to do because they had so many. There's so many bands that if they're lucky, they might have 1 or 2 hits. And Halen, their catalog is so huge. And I would definitely have to say Panama is definitely in my probably my top 3. There, you know, once you hear that riff, you know exactly what it is. You know, it's Van Halen. It's like AC/DC. You know, you hear Back in Black. Same thing with Panama, man. You know exactly what that is when you hear the first riff.
It's a quality song. It's a classic, man. It's a classic. Absolutely brilliant. Okay. Yeah. Right then, mate. You're next. Top Jimmy.
All right, Top Jimmy. Yeah. I believe, a little background, I think that's about somebody they actually saw in clubs down in L.A. So I guess that was kind of the inspiration of that song. You know, it's I wouldn't say it's a top 10 for me, but overall I still think it's a great song. It's got a great groove. Again, Eddie, you know, he can make, even if it was your number 50 on the list, once he gets doing his guitar solos, it amps up the song. It's still a good song, a solid song, and I definitely would give it I'd give it about 6.5 overall. Solo, I'd do a little better than the song as a whole, but it's got a nice groove to it, and you know, it's still a great song.
Yeah, man. I mean, I do like it. I'm like you. It's not, you know, it's not right up there in my top Van Halen songs. They do a lot of songs like this, didn't they? Around about that time, them sort of fun. It's a real fun, sort of more of a rocker sort of song. I do love it. But like you said, it's not the best Van Halen. But I don't know. He sort of needed that, I think. You know, I mean, on the album, it fits in perfectly at that point. And I'm like you. I'll probably give it like I don't know. It's between a 6 and a 7, I suppose. You know, for that. But yeah. Good song, man. And then next comes to me one of my favourites again. This is in my top 10 as well. Drop Dead Legs. Man, what a song. I mean, what a groove to this. I think I've ended up with all the best songs on here, you know. I think you've done yourself. The riff going through this song.
You got some good ones.
Oh, I have got some good ones. It's such a groove on this song. When the band kicks in, once the initial guitar riff comes in and then the band comes in, man.
Yeah.
And some of the drumming and bass on this song as well. Oh, man, it's just like...
Yeah.
This has got the perfect groove. The solo itself, I mean, it's probably not one of my top Van Halen or Eddie Van Halen solos. It's very jammy. You know, they sometimes do that, don't they? It's sort of like, and it goes from about 2 minutes, 45, about 2.5 minutes, and it jams out basically just to the end of the song. And it's like, but even when Eddie Van Halen's jamming, no one can touch him, can they? You know what I mean? So it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
What a brilliant song. I love it. Yeah. I mean, they tried to do this. They started playing this, didn't they, on that last tour a few years ago when David Lee Roth came back in the band. But yeah, it's sort of,
and we actually saw him out in Irvine. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I know Roth took a lot of grief for his vocals on that last tour, especially. But you know what, man? If you're there, you're there. You know what I mean? I'd rather be there watching than not be there. You know, and especially now what's happened to Eddie Van Halen as well. I wish I'd paid the money to go and see him myself. Do you know what I mean? Whatever the vocals were like, and you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just my opinion. I think, you know, a lot of most fans know what to expect now from artists, don't they, when they're getting on age-wise. So you make the choice. You either pay the money and go, or you don't. You know, it's up to you. But a great song, man.
Yeah, there's, you know, when you get to be 55, 60 years old and hitting some of those notes that he had to hit, he's a showman, and he's always been known as a showman, like you said. So, you know, nobody ever critiqued him for his great singing abilities, but well, he gave the attitude that the band needed, and it wouldn't have been the same without him, regardless of how great he sings at this point in his career or not.
Yeah, totally agree, mate. Right, mate, we're on to another single. Hot.
Well, this is kind of like Panama for you, Hot for the Teacher. You know, normally, you know, obviously Eddie, I'm waiting for that guitar solo, but I've never heard a drum solo like he did in the beginning. I've never heard anything like that from any other artist. And Alex is definitely underrated as a drummer. And that beat that he laid down, that was just, it was kick ass. It really was. And as a whole, it's definitely one of my favorites. It's a fun video to watch. That's what's great about this music, man. It's hard not to have this put a smile on your face, and it gets your adrenaline going, and just a great song overall. And I definitely think it's one of their best on the album. You know, it's probably, I'd say, a top 3 of the album, and one of my favorites all time.
I tell you, I didn't even, when I was young, when this first came out, when I first heard this, the beginning of it, I didn't even know what that instrument was. It was so strange, that drum sound, what he was doing with the drums. I just thought, what was that? You know, and obviously when you get to see when you get to know the music a bit more, you know it's drums. But I thought, what the hell is that at the beginning? I do like the song. I mean, to tell you the truth, for me, it's not right up there for me. I don't know why. I think if you watch my channel, I'm not, fast songs sometimes ain't the best. They're not my favourite songs for some reason. I just, you know, it's just, and it's quite a fast song for them, isn't it? One of their fastest, you know, but it's musically outstanding. You know what I mean? Just outstanding musically, and it just that I always remember watching that guitar solo and Eddie walking across the tables playing that guitar solo. How the hell to do that? Absolutely brilliant guitar solo.
Yeah, it was a fun video.
It is a great video. Okay, mate. See, I told you I've got all the best ones. So this is also my top 10 of Van Halen songs. Oh wait, so Another heavy use of synthesizers again. I mean, this has got to be the most 80s sounding song on this album, isn't it? I'd say.
Yeah.
This could be literally on a
Yeah.
soundtrack. It could be one of those soundtracks, couldn't it, in the 80s, one of them films.
Oh, sure.
Amazing groove, obviously keyboard driven, just sums up. I said about the 80s, it just does sum up the 80s. You would never play this song and say you'd know straight away, even if you didn't know it, you'd go, that's an 80s song. The rhythm section, I just love it. You know, the drums and the bass. And another sort of cool, jammy type solo again from Eddie. You know,
Yeah.
it's a real sort of uplifting, well, sort of top down in the summer song. It does put a smile on your face. Oh, wait, I love it. Absolutely love it. Brilliant song.
Yeah. Makes you want to get on some parachute pants and.
Yeah. No, it's great, man.
Definitely 80s. Definitely 80s, man.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. So, mate, Girl Gone Bad.
Yeah. Actually, one of the better songs, I think, on the album. As a song as a whole, not bad. I definitely, it feels a little heavier. And Eddie, of course, never disappoints. And I give him on this album, on this song, one of the higher scores I would on the whole album. I give it like a 7.5 as a solo. So, and as a whole, I'd say about a 7 for the song on the album. So, yeah, just a good song. It's got a nice heavy groove to it, and again, I enjoy hearing Eddie at work, and he doesn't disappoint.
Oh man, I mean Eddie's playing on this one. I mean this is like this is sort of a lot of when you read a lot about this album and you know you see comments under the YouTube videos and stuff. Girl Gone Bad seems to be a lot of people's favourites. It's sort of more of a deeper cut. The fans seem to really latch onto this one. And like you said, quite heavy, and it's all about the guitar on this one. You know, I mean, amazing playing. I do like it. I really like it. You know, it's a great song. It's a great deeper cut. Brilliant. Right, mate.
Yeah.
And it closes out. I'm going to close it out with House of Pain. So, yet another heavy song. Love the riff at the beginning. The guitar tone. I mean, I know it's always good. Eddie Van Halen's guitar tone, the sound of his guitar, but on this, it just seems to like, I suppose, on an album that's got a lot of synthesizers as well. When the guitar on these guitar tracks, it really shines through, you know.
Yeah.
This is David Lee Roth almost talking, like he does when he sings. Brilliant drumming as well.
Yeah.
Solos very cool, very very cool. Sort of like the rhythm guitar on the solo sort of changes on that part, which I really love. Very cool. Sort of David Lee Roth near the end, he's sort of mimicking the guitar, like they used to do quite a bit, didn't they? You know, he used to sort of sing the guitar, the melody of the guitar is quite clever. I thought it was a perfect closeout song because there's two there, aren't they? Two heavy songs at the end. Sounded more, I suppose, more of the older sort of Van Halen sound, you know. But closing out an absolutely brilliant album.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
A little more raw, a little more older Van Halen, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah, mate. I mean, to sum it up, it was a big part of my childhood. I suppose till the end of heavily in rotation, at least till I don't know late 80s, heavy rotation till the late 80s. But still. Now, sure. I mean, it was the first thing that went on my Spotify list. You know, one of the first things was Van Halen and this album. So, yeah, always has been one of my favourites. So, it's a brilliant album, mate. Brilliant album.
Yeah, and considering they've already been out for a few years and most bands kind of start to wind down after their second or third album. And then they had all the competition of so many great English bands from the 80s, Def Leppard, and so many others, but Def Leppard definitely, they ruled the charts. So they held their own with a lot of the greats back then, and as a whole, I think the album was #2, and it was held up by, of course, Thriller from Michael Jackson, just like Hysteria was #2 for like 6 months, but it just couldn't crack #1 because of Thriller. So that says a lot about this album. You know, it really was a heavyweight.
I mean, especially after Diver Down. I'm not sure what your views are on that album, but you know, you'd think to come back with this one was, you know,
Yes.
After that was like an album, an half-hour album full of cover versions and quite weak songs, really. You know, I think that Dancing on the Street on that one, and some like awful songs, and then to come back with this was quite amazing. I mean, this hasn't got any covers on it on this one, is it? They're all original songs.
Yeah, I think they're all original, and I think it's the first album when Eddie got his own studio, 5150, and I think that's why, you know, I think he got the all the criticism too from Diver Down of all the you know, not doing their own material. So he really, I think, took this more serious and got in the studio, and they made a masterpiece.
Yeah, they definitely did. I mean, I saw an interview a little while ago with David Lee Roth back in 1985, and he was saying, you know, the materials all written for the new album. I thought that was a load of rubbish, to tell you the truth. But it's a shame, isn't it? Because I would have loved another album back then. I would have loved another album. But I mean, I did quite like the first Sammy album as well. So I thought that was quite a cool album. Different direction, but I thought it was quite cool.
I was just going to say, I think this is kind of a more mainstream album. I think this kind of opened up the doors. And, of course, MTV also. But I think it really opened the doors to a lot more fans. You know, and they definitely got more mainstream after this. Like you said, I think they're a little more raw with Roth. But I think with Sammy Hagar, they kind of opened up more doors for more fans as a whole. So, you know, it is what it is. Like you said, I wish we had 10 more years with Roth after this album, but what can you do? At least they kept going.
Man, I mean, the personalities huge personalities in that band must have clashed like constantly.
Yes. Big egos.
And what this spawned though after this, I mean, was one of the best. I mean, David Lee Roth's, I know we're not talking about that, but his Eat 'em and Smile album was just, oh man, that was amazing as well for me. I loved it, you know. So that, you know, perhaps he's, you know, after this and the songwriting that appeared on this, he went on to do that album, which was absolutely amazing. After that silly EP, Crazy from the Heat, whatever it was. But,
that short little album with Beach Boys cover.
Yeah, typical Roth though. Yeah. Typical Roth.
Yeah,
mate.
That's Roth. Yeah, that's you know.
Yeah. That's it. What an amazing album! Thanks for coming on and talking about it with me.
Oh, I appreciate it.
And
meeting up with you and talking about this album.
And you can come on again. Definitely come on again with me, mate. And we've got loads to talk about. You know what I mean? We've got enough forever with rock music. You know that. All right, cheers, there, man.
Yeah,
well, any last words for
there's
listeners?
Some great stuff out there, man.
Yeah. Any last words for the guys?
No. I just, you know, what a loss with Eddie. I think the music's gotta stop at this point. It's like Led Zeppelin after losing John Bonham. You can't lose somebody like that and expect them to go on and really be the same. And like his own son said, man, there is no Van Halen without Eddie. So we just got to enjoy the catalog and past music and just, you know, that's what we got to deal with.
Well, what we have got this year, mate, just the last quick one, we've got Wolfgang, his son, he's bringing out an album, isn't he? I think this year. So that'll be something to look forward to. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to be Van Halen, but I mean, it's something to look forward to. Probably quite interesting to hear what he's going to have on that. So, all right then, mate. Well, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
All right. Hey, you guys take care.